adolescent, as the mom of an adolescent boy. Hi, y'all. How y'all doing? Anybody out there? Whoop, whoop.
Hey, we're just catching up and
Yeah,
talking about everything that's going on, and so you're part of our catch up and our
yep.
check-in.
Join in. So, my son is an adolescent. He's an adolescent at a primarily white institution. He's an adolescent at a primarily white institution in this climate, right? And so, really, making the effort, right? And really like trying to figure out what do we need to do to kind of like stay centered. So one of my requirements was that he has to contact me every day. And so that actually has been working out really nice because he contacts me like random times. So um sometimes it's like 7:15 in the morning. Sometimes it's like, Ma, I love you so much. Have a good day, you know. And sometimes it's like, hey ma, so today I thought I was trying to be cool, and I tried to like, me la adelanté. So I called him first. And to my utter shock and amazement, brother was asleep at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was at 3:30, and I was like, what happened? And he's like, I just finished class. Because this week at his particular school, they have it so that they're doing like AB cohorts. So last week he did in-person classes, and this week he does remote classes from the campus.
Hmm.
And so he's doing remote classes too. And so it's like, as you know, for me, it's like we're in a full hybrid,
Yeah.
and recognizing like his higher level of enthusiasm. So he's doing like a film and video class this trimester, and he had homework last week where he had to like record people walk and then like make something creative out of it. And so I was like, you don't want me to walk? Like I'll send you a video of me walking. And he was like,
And
nah,
he's like, no.
not so much. I know
He's
how
like, no, thank you.
I know how you look when you walk. And so that was, but now this week I was like, it's only Tuesday, bro, and you already sleeping at 3:30 in the afternoon. That is not a good sign, you know. He's like, yeah, I'm just tired. Like I've been staring at the computer all day.
Mm,
He was just taking a
no.
midday nap.
He might have been, but I was just like, you know what? Like the old school mom in me was like, levántate, hay que hacer oficio.
But
Like
he's transitioning. He was in COVID all these months,
yeah.
and it's like, yeah. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Public schools, elementary schools. I don't know. You know what? I don't even know anymore. The schools are supposed to start last week, Thursday, but now they're starting. They were supposed to start the 21st. Now they're starting tomorrow. We're in New York City, folks. I know a lot of schools have already started. So they were supposed to start officially on the 21st. Now it was decided last week at some point, randomly at night. I received an email, and then a tweet, that they were starting tomorrow. Um, so they're starting tomorrow, and let's see how that goes. I am not excited about it. Neither are the kids. And Ayansi, of course, has outfits
All right, as she should. Look,
ready for
she's
tomorrow.
serving
But I'm
on the first of Zoom.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
She is look.
We'll see how that goes. Um, but yes, I'm not excited. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Um, but it is what it is. Today, I have been registering the kids and other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some folks are doing other pods. Today they did an introduction. Well, Gibran did an introduction to African history. So today he was learning about the actual layout of Africa, the continent, and we're all listening, even though he was the only one participating. And some stats, right? How the United States can fit 4 times into Africa, the region, the continent,
Uh-huh.
right? And those are some vital facts to have in regards to proportions and land and mass and all that kind of stuff. So that was interesting. So he has homework in regards to that because that's important. And then he had to write his name in hieroglyphics from Egypt.
Wow. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was good. So Anayansi and him both wrote their names out in hieroglyphics. So that's so I think we have to like do those kinds of things to complement now because the kids are just not going to they weren't getting it in the classrooms before
Right.
and
Which
they're certainly gonna get less of it now.
I think at its best, I feel like there's a space where this is such an amazing opportunity. I think that once we start to get over all the things, but like this is the opportunity that many parents were saying that they wish they had, right? To really offer more to their children's education. And now you have the time, right? And so you realize that it's always six of one, half a dozen of the other, right? Where it's like, I didn't want it like this. We never wanted the way that we got it. Because now it's like you say you want time, you got time. Now it's like it's too much damn time. Right. So it's true. It's like no
damn
too much damn time. So it's really thinking about what we can collectively do to help each other also. I mean, honestly, my bigger concern is the fact that physical movement is critical.
Yes.
Right. Depending on where you live, like not everyone has an opportunity to really be outside and even go to like jumping jacks. Right. I remember when I was a kid, we used to live upstairs with my aunt, who I swear she could hear us breathe. So I was it was like a constant thing where she would complain to my mom all the time. And so like my mom was always like, be careful, like don't step too hard. And it's actually a trigger for me to this day. Like when I hear someone coming, and I've mentioned it to you all before, but like when I hear footsteps, like it's a trigger for me because I'm like, these people were raised by wolves. Like I just cannot even, it's like, I just want, like, I'm like, shh. So I'm super hyper vigilant to like my surroundings in a way that has also kept me from doing certain things. Like I'm always wanting to do things in the most, like physically in the most quiet way.
And I hate when people don't make sounds when they, because I'm like easily startled.
Yeah.
And so like with cats, like I know a lot of people are getting like dogs and pets during this time. And I want a dog. And my mom is like, a dog? A cat is more befitting for you because, the cat is like you. It doesn't really care about what anyone else is doing. It's doing its own thing. And I'm like, no, because the cat, you never hear it coming. I'm not trying to be startled in my house every 2 seconds. Like it just jumps up, it jumps on your head. It's just skulking around. It's like you're hosting a thief in your house. I'm like, no, I need some noise. Not a ton of noise, but like I need to hear you coming so I can be ready.
I don't want to hear you coming. I'm just like, look, I'll be like, look, and you know what? And there's another thing too, that like, because of that, I feel like not only that, but I was also raised in Brooklyn in the 80s where you never knew when shit was going to pop off. So you're always like hyper alert. So like, it's very rare that somebody would roll up on me because I would always be like, okay, I saw you coming. Right. Like even when I'm in if I'm in a restaurant or something, I'm always positioning my seat to be able to like see what is happening. So it's like, I'm rarely that engrossed in anything where I am like completely lost to my surroundings. But it is it's like, I hate hearing footsteps. Like, it just feels to me like, when you have like those horror movies when it's like, dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. That's what I hear when I hear footsteps, people coming. Like, I just feel like it is like an ominous thing for me. It's so uncomfortable.
Like impending doom.
Yes.
I don't like the too quiet. I'm like, something has gone awry if it's too quiet.
Yeah.
What y'all plotting?
That's one thing that I worry about with the different generations and these electronics.
Yeah.
Because exactly what you were talking about, Evelyn. I grew up also with being fully aware of my surroundings, not just as like because that's how I grew up, but also as like a sense of protection. Like you have to know where people are coming from at your front, your sides, and your back. Like I'm always, yo lo veo todo alrededor mío.
Yes.
I can see and sense, and people are always like, you saw that? Yes, I see everything around me. But then I see people that are like engulfed in their cell phones like this. I'm like, are you not seeing anything around you? And then I see kids that are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 15, 16 in shopping carts, in shopping carts or on the streets, wherever. And they're like fully immersed in cell phones. And I'm like, that natural instinct of, and that reflex of awareness, I feel is being lost.
Yeah.
And that for me is like a natural defense.
Yeah.
That is not going to be there for a next generation. And that is really concerning to me.
It's scary also because of the fact that I can't see anything. I hear a lot. You know how they say, like, if one of your senses are limited, others are heightened. So I also have really poor vision. And so I can hear.
But it's a sense.
Yes, it's like that sense. Like I have been like even right now, like during COVID, I am officially transitional lenses years old, that I have refused to get them. So when I was wearing my contact lenses, which I used to wear almost all the time, I started to wear readers on top of my contacts. But if I wear my glasses, they're only for distance. And so if I'm up close, I can't see. So I tend to be, since I spend a lot of time on the computer now, I'm actually like really able. So you'll see me and I probably look like this, but it's because I legitimately cannot see well. But because I can't see, I hear a lot of different things. Like I am like, I'm cognizant of like people being around me. Even like when I got my noise canceling headphones, I was struggling with like having noise cancellation and not being able to hear anything other than like whatever I'm listening to. Like that makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do people do this?
Yeah.
This ain't right. This ain't safe.
Yeah. Like I'll have one earbud in and the other one, out. Mm-hmm. Especially if I'm in public with these men. I can't afford to be on alert around men.
Yeah. I can even with these, I can hear everything that's going on upstairs. And that's just because I can hear everything that's going on upstairs. And they're not loud. It's just, I guess, I still have to be aware of what is going on upstairs. And I don't know why. Anyways, mujeres, let's get into it because
being aware, there's a lot going on in the world. So we're super excited to be here today on this live because there are some things going on. Anybody watching us?
Well, somebody already wished us a feliz mes de la herencia hispana.
And there's a lot there already to kiss.
We already start projecting.
But as we start there, I do want to send a special shout out to my Central American posse, whoop, whoop, for celebrating for those of you that are celebrating Independence Day. We have Guatemala, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Nicaragua. Right?
Everyone except Panama.
Everybody except Panama today is celebrating their independence. So as the lone non-Panamanian.
No, not Panama.
Right? Non-Panamanian in Caña Negra, I'm like, shout out to Guatemala and my Garifuna massive whoop whoop, even though our day is in November.
And yes, we understand that we understand the contradictions with independences. We fully understand it and how it doesn't mean the same for everybody. We understand that as Black women from multiple countries in Latin America. And we recognize the contradictions, and some of us still celebrate it and acknowledge it. So so for those of you that are celebrating, whoop, whoop, go ahead and celebrate it. And acknowledge the contradictions, right?
Yeah.
So the mes de la herencia hispana, I'm not into that. I have never acknowledged that. I know some people call it mes de la raza.
Which is
here is
what raza?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Here comes my little munchkin that has school tomorrow that is not in bed.
And that's interesting that Christopher chose to word it in that way, because there's a couple different ways people say it, like Hispanic Heritage Month, Latinx Heritage Month, Latino Heritage Month. And so it's interesting the choice of words, you know, happy month of Hispanic heritage.
Hispanic heritage. Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
Did y'all ever like feel Hispanic?
Well, you know, I think a lot of people don't even know the differences between the words.
Hispanic and Latino.
I feel like that word has been marketed, and people don't understand a lot of times. So I usually give people the benefit of the doubt in regards to Hispanic, Latin America, even Spanish, even though that's a stretch for me to give the grace around Spanish. Yeah. But yeah. So I'm hoping. So if you know the differences, put them in the chat. Hispanic, Latin America, and Spanish, right? Because those three terms sometimes get conflated into the same thing, but they're very political charged terms for each one of them.
And that's actually something that, just to plug our upcoming workshops, because you have one tomorrow, Genevieve, real fast. Dominant culture workshop.
Correct. Well, we don't cover those terms.
Hola.
And the dominant culture workshop.
You do.
Yeah, we kind of work through those terms in the anti-blackness workshops. And I know that you work through them in the Verano Negro workshop. The dominant culture workshop goes through like, how do we perpetuate these systems that we supposedly want to work against? And that is part of imposing terms that we don't know where they come from, because language is really important, right? So if we don't know where things come from, and then we get on a live stream that is led by 3 Black women from Latin America that are really about dismantling racism within the Latino community and uplifting Blackness, and then we say with good intentions, and I'm pretty sure that Christopher Jordan has good intentions. That's always my assumption. Felizmente la herencia hispana. Then we have to question, like, how are you replicating the oppression of our people? And that's just a question for you to have, Christopher, as a reflection, because we are here expanding our width. Right. And that's part of the work that I feel that we have to do as human beings, is always expand our width for us to grow as humans. Right. So don't take this as an attack.
It's not.
Take this as an opportunity to expand and to enlarge. Right. There's a gospel song that I actually like. I think it's like Expand the Territory. Because I do like gospel.
Leave studio. I hate gospel music.
Really?
Oh,
yes.
No.
And in every
gospel
language,
music.
I hate. And
hate is a very strong word, and I tell my children that all the time. Hate is a very strong word,
that's why I chose to use it, because I hate it.
I really enjoy gospel music. And there's a song that says expand. Expand my territory. So this is like expand. So Mariana Iranzi says, I never heard Hispano before living in the US. And there's a reason for that. So if you look up how the term Hispanic was created and for who it was created, Mariana, you will be very surprised. And we won't spill the beans here.
It would make sense that they've never heard.
Yes, it might make sense. And you might be surprised. And if you want to find out without doing that research, sign up for our workshop. It's happening this Saturday, 10 to 2, anti-Blackness within the Latina community. So Hispanic, Latino, Latina, Latine, and Spanish. Ooh, and Donnie's bringing the drinks. Are you coming
Right.
to 409 as well? 409, Donnie. Evan will give
Flower,
you the rest of the address.
Flower of the Mountain is here. Hello, Flower.
Yes, the mountainous flowers, the harvest del monte. La flor
It's
del monte está aquí.
like just poetry in motion. No, but like, have
Woo!
y'all
Mariana's doing number 2 on the 26th. All right.
bullet? But have y'all ever personally felt Hispanic? I know I've checked it off on forms, but it was kind of like an obligatory type of thing. And I think the times when I did, looking back, the times when I did express membership into Hispanidad, it was to kind of just go along. It wasn't anything that I actually inherently felt, because what I inherently feel is I'm a Black person, just that's on period everywhere I go. And in terms of Hispanidad or Latinidad, it's more so by and large, I'm identifying more so with my Black Panamanian customs and norms, which in large part is the antithesis. It is the direct opposite, and what Hispanidad tried to snuff out. And so I think as I've gotten older and I've gotten more convicted or more grounded and rooted in my convictions, I've been able to name that and say it aloud, you know?
So I since I think I've moved to the US, I have not filled out anything that has race and has Hispanic. I do not fill out. And I even go further. I scratch it out.
Oh,
But
damn.
I do put Black, African American. You know, I do check that box because
Yeah.
that's how I identify Blacks as African American. But I circle Black. I do not scratch out African American, but I do circle Black. So I check. So I go through like this process, right, where I scratch out Hispanic from Latin America, and then sometimes they put not white because they're it's messed up like that, right? So I scratch out that whole thing, scratch it out really hard. And then I check the box that says Black / African American. And then, but I circle Black and I leave African American, you know, as is, just to create that distinction. Not that they care, but I just do it for my own self, because it's like, I want to also acknowledge that I'm not African American.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the end of that.
But just to be clear, you're acknowledging you're not African American. It's not to degrade.
To distance myself, absolutely.
Not what
It's just,
I want to make that clear, because I don't want nobody
absolutely.
getting no type of
No.
notion.
And anybody, exactly. And because African American is not a race,
Right.
just be clear.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why I scratched out Hispanic, Latin American, not white. That's not a race either.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're gonna be clear, there should only be 5 categories there, and then I put Black, right? I circle Black. Now some of them now have ethnicity, right? Some of them, very, very minuscule and very randomly. When they do have ethnicity, I will check Latin America. If and only if they don't have it as race. If they have it as race, then I still go through my process, and then I scratch out the whole ethnicity, because you obviously don't really care about that one that much. Because sometimes they have it duplicated. They have Latin America and Hispanic as a race and as an ethnicity. I don't know who they have doing these things. They have a whole bunch of white people, or they have just La Bombalera doing these forms.
Oh Lord.
They also might have people like her doing them because they don't want to actually put their race. So then they put it all over the place so that they don't have to really identify, and they
Yeah.
can keep on bombardeando.
No, for real.
That's
For real.
good now. Bombaleando.
You know how many
Exactly.
posts, how many goofy ass posts I've seen today with them saying, with them racializing Latinos, and I'm like, we're still on this preschool shit. Forget it. Like I'm about to mute
Exactly.
Latino heritage on all my timelines. Like I'm about to mute it for the whole month. I'm done already, and day one. We're not even through with day one. I was done at 10 a.m. and I woke up at 8.
I was on this workshop, and the facilitator was like, how do we honor Latinidad? As that was an icebreaker. I was like, that question is on mute, right? On Zoom, on mute. That question can be triggering to a lot of people. No, because and then she's explaining Latinidad, and I said, no, that cannot be an icebreaker question. Well, Latinidad has many. I said, no, that cannot be an icebreaker question. How is this an icebreaker question?
Still not getting it.
It's fascinating to
And I'm
me
like,
when
your
people,
workshop is starting off with this.
when
And
people
me in
don't
it.
disagree, when people disagree with you, or they don't like that you question or you push back, so then they try to somehow push it back on you, like, oh, you must not have understood. It's like, no, I understood. I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I fundamentally disagree. I mean, I think
Fundamentally.
I don't know what it means to feel, right? To feel Hispanic. So I couldn't say that I felt it. I couldn't say that I know what it has felt like to feel excluded from that part of the process. But I also know that because of where I was raised and how I was raised, I also was othered in that way as well, because of my name and being raised in, Crown Heights in the 80s, 90s, right? Where people had like a specific ethnicity. So I don't know that I didn't feel, I didn't feel welcomed, but I also didn't always feel welcomed into other spaces either. You know what I mean? Like my friends from, like, say, the English speaking Caribbean, like I think for a while they were like, you're not like us in some ways, right? Like whereas I think that even Panamanians have a unique thing, because there is such an alliance with the Caribbean that it's like people be like, oh, you down with us, but it's like, for me it was like, that's not exactly the case. So I wouldn't.
Like, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's like there is a difference. So I think that would be that, and I think that it's also really different because of the fact that, and based on what I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, and what I've experienced in Panama, it's like no Panamanian, no matter where you're from in the country, is going to be like, Black people don't exist here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whereas in Guatemala, we've had it in workshops where people be like, I didn't even know, my family's in Guatemala, and I didn't know there were Black people in Guatemala. So imagine being those Black people. So our experience in Blackness is always going to be different fundamentally from being from a place that has made so much effort to try to almost denounce you, right?
Correct.
And so I think that for myself and for people who are from other countries in Latin America that have had that experience, like, that is also a unique experience in our Blackness that is often not discussed, right? Your experience in Panama is not an experience that I would have in Guatemala even today, because of the fact that we are still othered, while still being exploited, right? Like in so many other places. And so I liken it very often to like the Blackness that exists in like Argentina and Chile, right? Where in those places that when you think about it, you think about a specific type of person. And when you fall significantly separate from that, that's a thing, right? Because even Honduras, our neighbors, doesn't have that same experience, right?
So there's not a negation of Black existence. Right.
And so I would say that, and they also have, like, so it's like, even whether it be here in the United States or in their own country, I think it's a much different type of dynamic. And so for me, it was like, I don't know that I felt it, but I don't know that I always knew that I was Black. I've always known that I've been Black and been really happy about that. And so, like, I was rooting for everybody black way before Issa Rae ever said it, because that was like, this is the shit we have in common. I was always searching for commonality in that way. But yeah, I'll definitely say that was not, I don't know how to really like answer that particular question.
Well, that's the point of me asking, because it's these repetitive questions, right? Like, how does it feel to be Afro-Latino? I'm like, what do you mean? Or what does it mean to be Afro-Latino? We've seen those headlines on repeat for the past years. I'm like, y'all can't think of nothing else? It's the same coro, and it's the same responses that people are giving because you asking the same three people.
And for me, for me,
right, and that same three people is tired.
Correct. It's like people asking, like, how does it feel to have a vagina? I don't know. It just feels.
It's there.
Supposed to.
Yeah, right.
How does it feel to have teeth in your mouth?
Right, like.
I don't know. I've never not had teeth, so not yet. That day might come, and then I will be able to answer what it feels like to have teeth. I don't know, but right now I can't answer that because I've only been black Panamanian, so I don't know what it feels like to be black Panamanian.
Would you say that?
Absolutely, Mariana.
Something.
Vagina.
I do know. I do think though. A friend of mine a long time ago, she went to, and she was also a comedian. She went to an all white school, and she's like, you know what it feels like to be a black girl? Go to an all white school. Then you would know what it feels like to be a black girl, because you're reminded all the time what it feels like to be a black girl. And that stuck with me. I've never been in those environments where I am the black person. But I've never been in those environments. So I don't know what it feels like to be Afro-Latina.
But
Black
do you
Latina.
think that's inherently anti-black? Because why do I have to go to a white environment for me to feel black? You know what I'm saying?
No, but it's like just being surrounded as the only black person, then you might feel like, oh, this is what it's like to be void of everything else that you know. I don't know.
You know what I'm driving at here? Because I've seen those memes where it says being black is looking up what racial relations are in a country before you visit. I'm like, that's what being black is to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, many times the examples that people give are filled with strife, and it's a chore, and it's kind of a burden. And I understand that it's nuanced, right? That they're probably not only talking about the strife. You know what I'm saying? I understand that. But at the same time, it's just way too much of that, But
I think that's also learned behavior, right? Because the same way that, like, white people are learning, and we've talked about this before also, but like the same way that, for example, other people are learning certain things about blackness, the fucked up thing is that black people are learning that too. So we too we too internalize some of the very same things, even when we know that they're not true. And I think what happens is that we don't get to promote the best parts because we're also taught that the best parts are not valuable, right? And so, and that's something for us. I remember a while ago, I did a workshop, and it was a woman. I don't know where she was from. I think she was from I don't think she was Nigerian, or maybe Togo or something. But she's like, no, as a matter of fact, it was when we did the thing with Angeli. I remember her saying something like, what is your name? And she was like, oh, my name is like Lisa, whatever. And it was just like, no, like, what's your name? Like, what did your mama call you? She's like, I don't want my mama calling me that name. Like, that's for me and my mom. Right. And so I feel like sometimes there's this desire to like let white people or other people have entrees into blackness that they don't deserve. That's for me and my people. There's certain elements, like there's like a pound, right? Or like when I point with my mouth, I don't want to have to explain that Because when I make eye contact with other Black people in the space, they inherently know it, and that makes me feel valued and loved. So it's like I also question why we always need to try to explain everything in order for it to have value. Like some things really are, right? The best parts of Blackness just are, whether they are automatically knowing that you're gonna call, you know, an elder Miss or Auntie, right? Without any type of like prompting. Whether it be that, like, you know, you go, hey, when the baby starts dancing, right? Like those types of beautiful cultural pieces that are for us. And so for me, it's always like, why is it anti-Black to also feel like things have to be explained and understood by the oppressor in order for them to have value?
Yeah. To your point, Ev, I was doing a panel, and it was 3 Black Colombians, and there was an older woman, and I always refer to her as Señora. I don't call her by her first name. And we worked together in Afro-Latino travel, and we were doing the panel, and the person organizing was like, "Oh, can you tell the Maria, Señora Maria, if she can, if the kids can quiet down?" I'm like, I am not telling.
No, ma'am.
No.
No, ma'am.
I am not going to tell her that.
No, ma'am.
And so, you know, she told me to say that, and I was like, okay. You know, to her, I was like, okay.
No, ma'am.
Anyway, continuing, I'm not telling my elder to quiet. First of all, the kids ain't going to quiet down. That's number one.
Ma'am.
You know, that's. And I'm coming out my face telling her, I'm her daughter's age. Are you insane? That is a huge faux pas. And so, like, to your point,
across Blackness, right? Like across, no matter where you go, like anywhere there is Black people, there is a certain type of affect that you're gonna have with someone who is an elder, right? And that's just across the board. Like I remember in my mom used to tell me all the time how when she was growing up in the town that she grew up in Guatemala, in Puerto Barrios, how even the indigenous people used to be like, ay, a mí me gusta cuando se mueren los negros porque ustedes bailan y hacen la comida. And it was just like in Garifuna culture, right? Like there's like, it's like death is a celebration, right? There's elements of it that are celebratory.
Which I'm like, I know what you mean by that, but I don't like the delivery.
It was like this sense, but I didn't, you know, and I remember as a child being like, but then as I got older and I started meeting people from different places, and it was like, oh, in my country we do this, and in my country we do that, and in my country we do that. And so really thinking about the fact that that's another element of Blackness that I really see consistently, right? That there's like this thought of the afterlife.
Yeah.
In a way that in general white people just don't see it. And no matter where they're from, they don't see the afterlife, and they don't see so when I see like, whether it be, you know, celebrations in Colombia or in Cuba, like it feels the same to me. Like these are Black people having these very similar celebrations. Like we've joked all the time that whenever I go somewhere and there's Black people, I want 2 things. I want fried fish and I want some sort of something made with coconut. And when I find those, I know that I'm going to find Black people.
I thought you were going to say fried fish and a strong back, but that's a whole nother podcast. So
I mean, you know. we gotta get a sponsor for that one. And I would, if anybody from Tracy's Dog is watching, come on through and sponsor us so that we can actually talk about grown people stuff.
That would be like an after hours kind of conversation.
Yeah,
because
right. Right? So even that, right? Even the way that we laugh is very like unique and right. There's like there is a bitch I'm making fun of you laugh, right? And you know how only Black people, they run away from the joke. So like if something is funny, it's like
or beat you, a bloody pulp. I'm a hitter. I hit people
across the board, wherever you're from. These are elements of the beauty of Blackness, and they just can't be. They can't be locked down.
You know what else we do? We always saying somebody's lying. You know, it's like mentira. Always. Right? I know you fucking lying.
Right. Everybody has some sort of version of use a whole ass lie.
Yep.
O para.
Right.
That's
Yes.
Anayansi's line now. Like that is so like my mother. Para, stop it, stop it right now, Gibran.
There are
That's
elements
what she says. And I'm like,
across the board. And so like when we try to we can't lock it down. Like Latinidad can't capture that. It can't even try. Even on its best day, it cannot capture.
Where's the air horn? Damn it.
Right? And
I
so
mean, I could never.
Could never capture that. And so it's just not expansive enough, right? To be able to capture all of the magic.
exactly.
And that's what it is. It's not that it is like, I don't feel like
To me, I'm always
not broad enough.
I'm always amazed when I have these same conversations with my sisters from Uganda, Zimbabwe, Senegal, and we can have the same conversation and we can all understand each other, right? And it's the same kissing of the teeth. There might be little tiny differences in regards to our mouths, a little bit different. Like they might do like something like something different slightly, like the kissing of the teeth and the shush or the shups, and we're all saying the same joke, not with words, but with hands, the clapping, the
This some version of this. That's when you know the tea is spicy. Somebody to get fucked up. Something is gonna happen.
No matter what country.
Something's popping off.
Something.
No matter what country. What country? The rolling of the eyes. What?
I've seen
crazy. He crazy.
I've seen retreat in 8 different languages. You know when, as a parent, you give that look, that like sit your ass down right now look.
It's the same look.
It's the same look. Black mama is black mama is black mama.
Exactly. And when children now, because now I'm over 40, right? And when children from different countries call me auntie, like that's blackness right there. Children from different countries calling me auntie. That right there, that's blackness. Or tia, right? That's blackness across the board.
Or madrina they call me madrina. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that.
And you know what? And it's also like the other side of it, which we don't talk about, but we've been talking a lot about ageism, right? And so thinking about when you are moving into that next level of your personhood, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, for example, like in Garifuna culture, you meet someone and immediate it's like, oh, prima, right? Like people. So I remember when I moved from prima to tia, and I was like, wait. I'm tia now? And I really didn't know how to feel because my initial instinct was to correct the kid and be like, no, prima. But they was looking at what they was looking at. You older. So therefore, you just not prima anymore. You moved up the rank to tia.
You got kicked out the kids' table.
I got kicked out the kids' table, and now I'm expected to know how to make something for the adults.
Now you're in the grown folks' business. Now you Aunt Patty and Aunt Gladys now. That's grown folk business.
Yes. And you know what? I had to get my pantsuit. Right? I was just like, this is a thing. But it was also even that level of like, oh wow, like there's certain elements of behavior, right? Of comportment, of actual items. Like I was like, wait, if I'm an auntie, I need auntie gear now. Right? I was like, what is auntie gear? I had me a robe. I didn't know how to act. I was like, this is a thing. Like I done moved up in the ranks, and I had to see it as an elevation of my personhood.
It's an honor.
And there's it's for me, it's nice to see that evolution, right? And we all lived through it. I went from being niña to joven to prima to señora
Doña.
to señora. No, I'm still at señora. No, I'm at tia. I'm at tia now.
You're tia. So what's the next
I'm
level?
at tia now. The next level is doña. I'm not at doña yet.
Okay.
No.
My mother is at doña.
Your mother's like
the next level over doña is abuelita. She's not at abuelita yet. Omar's mom is at abuelita when she's gone out, right? But it's nice to see the evolution, and you get different treatment with each one of them. You know, I don't get like the special treatment anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like señora, like get the fuck out of the way kind of thing, right? Like at stores and that kind of stuff. Like there's nothing special about me right now, right? Especially if I don't have the kids with me, there's nothing special about me, right? Joven, I still had my like, you know, I'm joven.
Right, you like a hot girl.
I'm a hot girl. I have buying, purchasing, you know, I'm joven. I'm hot to trot. I'm joven, right?
Scam.
Señorita, I'm still single, you know, all that, right? But to see the evolution for me is really nice. And, you know, I'm crazy too. There's nice and crazy at the same time.
Do men have this same Do men have this type of situation? Like, I
probably
feel from joven to don. Like, there's no like, oh, we really out here.
There's probably joven. There's probably joven.
Wait, did she freeze?
No, I think she's melting right now.
I feel like there's a different level for Black men though, in regards to how they're perceived.
Yeah.
That's very different.
Yeah. Because
like, because joven.
Yeah. Joven lasts longer. Joven lasts
longer, and they probably don't get too much respect or even like not much of anything there.
Yeah. Like,
and when we were talking earlier about how in Panama the differences maybe between Panama and Guatemala in regards to how people in Panama, everybody in Panama knows that there's Black people. Yes, absolutely. But in Panama, there's a very like clear classification that you probably Black people are, they ain't shit or they're shit, good shit.
So it's extreme.
Those two categories, right? So you ain't shit or you're shit. And if you ain't shit, you just better just disappear because you are una lombriz, so you're like just worthless. And if you're shit, then you must be really, really, really good and worthy of people's time. And that doesn't fit well, at least with me. A lot of people like Dash's friends out there. And I'm being funny.
I ain't got no friends. I got my only friends.
That's why I'm being funny. They are like thirsty to be those, you know, that they're good shit. What?
Exceptional Negroes.
Right.
Yeah, like super exceptional. But at the end of the day, they're just like, I feel like, see, my kids are still not sleeping. It's 10 o'clock.
Nikas.
I might have to like leave the broadcast open and go and see what's going on upstairs soon.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
I mean, that's life.
Right.
That's life. Yeah. That's
and you know what?
It is what it is.
All the kids and families that are starting school tomorrow, because this ain't easy. You know what? If y'all want to just remember, we still have our Ask Genevieve open. So if you need some sort of advice or just want to vent, email us at radiocañanegra@gmail.com for us to be able to give you some feedback, right? Some unpopular opinions potentially, but
I'm
always
putting the email in the chat.
Yeah. So Dash is going to put the email in the chat. Definitely send us a message, because right now, if you are living, well, I mean, there's so many other places too. Like school is a weird place right now. I will say that.
And I feel like in the United States it's one thing, and the rest of the world is something else as well. And there's a lot of intersections in between, because I spent some money today buying stuff for the kids. But I know we have Wi-Fi at home. The kids each have an iPad that the DOE supplied. But then you have public school systems that are teaching virtually over channels, over like Canal Once in Panama, for example. But that's assuming that people have TVs and electricity and Wi-Fi. And even though it's 2020, and in a lot of places in the world, electricity is still not a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
People still don't have electricity 24 hours a day. So there's a lot of assumptions that are being made around education.
Yeah.
And this is something that is real. And the people that, I can safely say that in Latin America, a lot of the communities that still don't have access to electricity 24 hours a day are Black and Indigenous communities. So when we talk about access to education, those are the communities that are impacted by lack of access to education.
Right. And that's just right. And that's like access to actual like items, right? We're not talking about literacy. We're not talking about
correct.
Right? About the ability to, so it's like thinking about all those other things that when you have your children are not in school, for example, that they're making assumptions that you are, that you can help with things like this, that you have access to different resources that are going to enable them to, that you're going to be able to support them through securing other things. So that's been something that's been on my mind. Like I was just, at the beginning before you joined Dash, we were talking about how I would have absolutely struggled because my mom didn't speak English. And when I went to school, there weren't as many options for bilingual support as there are now. So if it would have been a situation where we wouldn't not have been able to go to school, I would have been really screwed, because who was going to help me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who was gonna help me? And even if you did, you could be completely fluent and literate in one language and then not really understand nuance in another.
Yeah, I told you how they wanted to put me in ESL when I was in elementary school because I guess they said I had an accent, or I was saying words like how my parents pronounced it. And my mom was like, why would she go to ESL? Like, she speaks perfect English. What are you talking about? And if my mom hadn't pushed back on that, they probably would have put my ass in ESL. And she's like, she has perfect command of the English language. What do you mean? I was student of the month every other month. What do you mean? And so these are like just the different ways that people impede Black excellence. Why would I be put in ESL? I literally was student of the month every month. Because I said words not, in the same way that you say it. Now there's a deficiency happening, or what they imagine as a deficiency, because ESL, that's not a deficiency, right? And so it's just interesting, like Evelyn said, certain elements of who we are and what we do are not valued, because bilingualism among white kids is, yay, you're going to go far in life, all these opportunities. But we have parents, Latin American parents, who refuse to teach their kids Spanish because they want their children to be fully assimilated into white dominant Anglo culture, as what Genevieve and Afro Resistance will cover tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so It's really interesting. And we see it. That's the thing. We see it. And I wanted to address what we had asked, the differences between Hispanic, Latino or Latine, Latinx, and Spanish, which everyone can guess. Spanish is a person from Spain.
Yeah.
Right?
Ding, ding, ding. Hold on. Hold on.
Or it's a colloquialism for New York people, right? Oh, you Spanish. You understand that nuance, right? And Hispanic, Mountain Flower said Hispanic is referring to people from Latin America and the Caribbean as having Spaniard origin in the States. Kind of. Hispanic actually, the colonizers promoted that because Spain is Hispania, right? And they were imposing their customs and culture to civilize the savages, right? To Christianize the savages. And so the whole entire basis and premise of the conquering of lands and people was to literally Hispanicize people. And through that, through religion, through assimilating people to this aspirational whiteness. And so that whole idea of Hispanidad is taken directly from Spain in efforts to civilize these non-humans, right? And so that's why it's so triggering to me, like the word Hispanic, the word Latinidad too, which Latinidad has come to replace Hispanidad, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this hegemonic white European project. It's you lose your language, you lose your mother tongue, you lose your name, right? How people take pride in that name. Oh, I have a Hispanic name. Yeah, but at what cost? And Javier always says this. He's like, mestizos, which we historically European and indigenous, they have to contend with why they're mixed, because they're always saying they're mixed, right?
Right.
How are you mixed? Can we grapple with that sexual violence, that sexual violent history? You know what I mean? We have to understand those nuances. And then Latin American, which when I say this part, and sometimes I be having to go to look at my own documentary because I'm like, I be forgetting some stuff. Let me go see what the research says. How Latin America was championed by Napoleon during the revolution, the Haitian Revolution, to inspire a kinship throughout the region, throughout the different countries. So all of these terminologies are projects in hegemony and white European domination. And so it's interesting how people they say, oh, I prefer Latino instead of Hispanic. I'm like, you saying the same shit? You know? And then on top of it, Hispanidad was a platform that fascist Franco promoted during his reign. And that idea was also added to by wealthy white men who were inspired by the eugenics movement. So I'm like, this is y'all king? This is what we're promoting? And so the thing is, I think a lot of us inherently know that. You know, like, of course, I do a lot of research with that and, you know, whatever. But I think a lot of us just inherently know that because we know what we see. We know what we experience. We know the lives that we're leading. And everything signals to those elements that I mentioned. That is what we live daily, just period. And Blackness was never part of that equation. It wasn't meant to be. And we know that. You ask anyone on the street, no one has to read 5, 50, 100 books to understand that Hispanidad or Latinidad erases them. You know, those are lived experiences across the board. And specifically when we're talking about Black people, Black Latin Americans, this ain't new to us.
Glazma Perez Silva says those are political terms used by the USA to distribute the budget among those that speak Spanish.
She was like, the budget.
Except that, did they get the money? Like, let's just be clear, right? Like, if that's...
But it's true. You always have to follow the money trail, right?
Right. I mean, we get that, right? Like, that's the Hispanic, right? And then Latin American is supposed to include people from the region, which would include Brazilians, whereas Hispanic The basic definition is Spanish speaking, so that doesn't include Brazilians and Haitians.
And then you have the history of the census, the U.S. Census Committee, the ad hoc to put it on the census, which a lot of Latin Americans were like, huh? Because then you have those nuances like Janvier pointed out, where it's like Hispanic, non-whites, and then all of these other subdivisions.
But also remembering that based on what you said, that ideology came from somewhere, right? And so being clear that the ideology, it already existed, and they just, like they utilized it.
Yeah.
So it was already, it was already a specific group of people. And so when they did that, it was with the intention of continuing to have that same platform of like elevating those who could prove or have some level of association with Spanish read white lineage.
Right. And we go over and at some point we're gonna have Javier, because he really, and y'all sat in our class, how he knows the history, explores the history. He's from Texas. How at one point Mexicans were classified as white because you had those border disputes with Mexico, the Tejanos, Texas, California, the Californios, and all of that. And during today, they had a Google Doodle of Felicitas Mendez, who her family won a case with integrating a school in California. And I couldn't help while I was reading it in thinking that these people were upset that they were being treated like Black people. And I can't help but always think that a lot of these Latinx US movements are, the outrage and the spark for them is because they are being treated like Black people. It's just this nagging feeling in my heart that most of it is rooted in the anti-Blackness, that they feel that they shouldn't be mistreated like the Blacks are mistreated in the US or like the Blacks in their country.
Right.
Because when you look at her, I see a Black woman. And when they write her story, it's like she's Boricua, she's Mexican.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right? And her mom referred to her as Prieta. And then she said that she pressed her hair. I'm like, yeah, Black girls press their hair.
Right.
In no part in any of that history does she talk about Blackness at any point in time.
So that was very interesting for me to see this morning, because I was like, let me see what the Puerto Ricans are saying. But there was radio silence. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. All the Black Puerto Ricans, radio silence. I was like, okay. So the term Hispanidad, right? And there's a lot of research of this done online, right? So the term Hispanidad, it was actually coined. So the term Hispanidad, there was always like since 1935 or something crazy like that, there was always like a Dia de la Hispanidad, right? But it was actually coined in 1970 by Richard Nixon. And it was coined, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear background noise or not. It was coined 1970 Richard Nixon as to legitimize that there's this group of people that speak Spanish that happen to be from Latin America. That's the real reason why he coined it, right? The reason why he was really using it was to justify a lot of funds that were funneled to the white Cubans, right? That were, that were opposing what was happening in Cuba, and to really create these different categories presently and in the future, and to be able to sustain those and to create a distinction from what was happening on the U.S.-Mexico border with the migrant workers, the farm workers picking the produce and migrating over the border back and forth, which going to end up being the same category of migrant workers that people from Cuba might end up being if there wasn't a specific denomination. So we're talking it was 1970, but it was becoming a problem from 1967 up to like further down. So he had to create something to specify, oh no, these white folks are different from these Mexican folks that are not white. But they were white before, but now they're not white no more because these are real white people. So these people are Hispanic, but now we're going to create this term Hispanic to really separate them from them, right? So when people say Hispanic, there's this undertone around what people want to be in regards to race and class that's not really being spoken about. There's this like es como there's this wish, desire of attaining this status, right? The same way when you tell people like, oh, you have, well, not when you tell people, but when people tell other people like, you have that real nice Spanish hair. There's this thing there around soft hair, curly hair, baby hair, that kind of stuff. There's an underlying piece there around whiteness, right? That's the same thing with Hispanic, right? So this Hispanic Heritage Month is really White Heritage Month,
right?
That's the underlying, you know, when people say like, you know, like when you go and you get like your skin, like my mother went and she got that done once in Toronto, and she was told that she had like some like yellow undertone or something, and we were all laughing like they tell you that you have like yellow undertone for you to think that you are like whitish, and we were just laughing because like what is a yellow undertone, a red undertone, like what is when you're just black, right? It's for you to buy a different type of foundation to get lighter, in my opinion, and so many other opinions. So yeah, so there's this thing around like being other than what you are to be whiter and lighter and better.
Right.
At the end of the day, so Hispanic heritage is that.
It's
so
still
I'm not down with it. I've never been down with Hispanic heritage
or
Latino heritage.
A white power.
It's all power
that are forcing us to buy into.
I'm like, what raza? This is for the raza? What raza? What raza? This raza? Black raza? Negra? What raza? Let's be clear. And when people are like, la raza, I'm like, but
which raza?
What is raza?
Who said that? You know that gift that says, who said that? Who said that?
That's Portia Williams.
Who said that?
But and also recognizing that like we are in choice, right? I think that that's one of the things that I think about very often. It's like, even if you were raised valuing these systems, right? Because I leave room for the fact that there are lots of people who were raised valuing specific beliefs, thought patterns, whatever. When you know different, what does it take, right? And also, like, how do we hold each other up through this learning process so that it doesn't become, oh, I know, you're a dumbass if you don't know, and I don't know, I want to learn, right? How do we create, or do we need to, right? Maybe that's another question. Do we need to create safer spaces where people can learn? Because I think that when we don't, we also create spaces where people can like kind of almost dig their heels in their own ignorance. Because then that is, there's no room, right, to be able to like kind of ask questions or share, right, our experiences. I see a couple of comments here. Mariana says, Mexicanos say la raza, meaning the people.
And I'm like, what people?
What people?
We know that.
Which people?
We know that. We know what Mariana, we know that.
Means. Which people though?
But what people?
And we know that people say, we know that Mexicanos say la raza to mean the people. What people though?
People.
What people?
Because there's a lot of black Mexicans too.
Right, because if I roll up in some Mexican ass neighborhood and they'll be like, oh, la raza, they're gonna kick me out. They're gonna be
that's the nice way of putting it.
They're gonna be like, get the fuck out.
They'd run your black ass out. Let's
like, get out today and don't come back. Don't be trying to say
like
that. Right?
El pueblo, the work.
Well, we had a comment from Glaisma that said his Hispanidad preceded Nixon. Yeah, we went over its colonial foundations. We already said that. Janvier was going over its evolution in the U.S. because, again, all of these things are connected. And there's iterations of certain terminologies, words, and how people use it and how it's being used. And so it absolutely is important to understand the foundations and the iterations of the words and the language that we're using.
And why certain things were chosen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't go through the foundation, another term could have been chosen.
Mm-hmm.
They could have said negritud, but they didn't. Right? Like, if we're talking about terms, then let's talk about why people are using specific terms and the benefit of using one term versus another term. So the consistency in othering Black people and Blackness in Latinidad is intentional. I think that's what,
absolutely,
that's an intentional thing, and it continues to be intentional even when we're living in a space where people want to be down with Afro Latinidad. They still do not want to do the work to kind of like unpack how we got here.
Yeah.
And how it creates room and space for white people to claim Afro Latinidad and get opportunities that actual Afro equal Black people are excluded from.
They still don't want to give up that Latinidad portion.
Right.
They're still hanging on. Yeah. I'm like, they done threw your ass off the cliff 500 years ago. You know, like Scar or what they did Mufasa. I'm like, they threw your ass to the wildebeest. What are you doing?
Like, so it's like, and because we know now that terms are misused, at what point do we also start to hold one another accountable, right? For the proper, right? And to create terminology that is actually going to be the inclusive environment that we claim we want to be a part of. So I think that's another thing too, that it's like people, they say one thing out the side of their mouth. That's real Black talk, right? They say one thing out the side of their mouth, but then on the other side, it's like, oh, but that's just the way that people are. Oh, but that's just the way that they speak. So it's like, at a certain point, now what?
I want to lift up what you said earlier. In
so one thing with when one thing that dominant culture teaches us, right, that we really have to fight against, is that we have to uphold things that we know are wrong, right? Dominant culture teaches us that we have to waste time and explain and uphold things that we know are just wrong. Why? Why not? Right? So we know that, Evelyn just broke down. We know that a term is wrong, is wrongly used, but we're gonna waste time explaining why it doesn't mean something. Why, even though we know it doesn't mean that, why we should still use it, and how we need to explain every single time why it's being used.
And that's gaslighting.
And we keep on using it.
Clear. This is gaslighting when people are like, wait, I didn't really understand. Particularly when it comes to race. And when I say particularly when it comes to race, it's racial learning that will specifically benefit Black people. There's often wait, I need to read 15 more books, even though you haven't read 15 books in 15 years. Wait, I gotta talk about it with my friends. Wait, I gotta create a study group. Wait. So it's like, at what point do we prioritize learning and being able to actually implement that learning in a way that's going to positively impact? Because y'all learn a whole bunch of shit that ain't right. And I'm not talking about anybody specific, but I'm saying that you can certainly learn certain things and not even question why you learned it, why we perpetuate it. But when it comes to learning or using currently acquired knowledge to be able to benefit people, to create the supposed equitable spaces that we want to create, then all of a sudden that's where we start to see gaps in implementation.
And this idea of being educated, right? I'm like, you mean indoctrinated? Because we were talking about this earlier, and what I had wanted to point out, because Pastor Ev took us to church earlier at noon around lunchtime, and and you were like, we were talking about how people call out things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they call out using the same oppressive tactics. And so just the idea of being credentialed, that you're going to go to the expert, right? And Evelyn pointed out, if Black people have to be credentialed under white systems to seem valuable, then isn't there something anti-Black about that? Those same systems that we're fighting, we're still valuing, in the realm of academia, with this whole kerfluffle debacle with these cosplaying white women. I lost respect for academia years ago, but at the same time, they're still seeking out academics as experts while seeing the fuckery that's happening and understanding that these institutions were built as homages, as conditioning centers for white pathology. We understand that, but we're still giving credence and we're still giving reverence to those institutions.
And by literally seeing it, I think that that's the whole thing. That it's like, you will see white people that will be like, oh, I'm Afro-Latino. And it'll be like, come on in.
Yeah.
You will see me and I'll be like, I'm Afro-Latino. And they'll be like, why? How? Your name is...
You learned
from
Spanish,
where?
right?
You learn Spanish, right? Oh, wow. Is your spouse? Where's your spouse from?
5 billion questions.
Right? Like, I have to
No,
show you my history and me to get entry.
or it would be like,
And
I
it's
don't
a free
believe you, Evelyn. It would
vampires.
be more like this. It would be like, I don't believe that, Evelyn girl.
Yeah, no, right.
It will be more blatant like that.
And
I don't even believe her.
They will come up to me. They'll be like, I looked you up on LinkedIn. Nothing says. I perused your Instagram feed for the last 5 years. I don't see you speaking Spanish.
They'll accept the Afro, not the Latino, right? But they accepted the Afro and the Latino with this white bitch. Really?
Multiple white bitches.
And everyone would be like, I have 10 lipsticks though.
Right. Like, I'm ready.
I have 10.
And on top of it, she kept failing at those pivotal times. The salsa class that she taught, I'm like, who is salsa in here? I see you walking back and forth. Where's the salsa? Where is the salsa? Where is it?
But also thinking about the fact that I feel bad for certain people. I feel bad for the people who will share later, like, I had doubts, but because of the systems that they are also a part of, they couldn't even comfortably express the doubt without some sort of tremendous backlash that would go toward them as as particularly Black people. This is the people that I saw that struggled with this. And it's like, why is this our world? Why is the world that we're living in preventing Black people from saying what they know to be true? Mm-hmm. Gaslighting will teach you that what you know in your spirit, your ancestral wisdom, is not even real because it can't be quantified by somebody who don't have it.
By a white person who don't have it, like you said. Like,
it's so unbelievably upsetting.
It's crazy. Yo, I forgot what I was going to say.
Listen,
when you said that people were like, oh, I had suspicions.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get pissed. I'm like, what am I supposed to, what we supposed to do with that?
And why couldn't you, like really recognizing, like, Genevieve and I have talked about before the infinite amount of ways that we have been heartbroken at work, because then you always have to play chess when everybody else gets to play checkers, right? As a Black person in specific spaces, if you want to kind of navigate, you may not want to have to make the wrong enemies. People are going to look out, like now you stand out in a way that won't honor you. You may have people that you need to deal with. There are choices that we still have to make as boldly as we can step into these spaces. There are consistent, you still have to show a significant amount of restraint. Whereas a white person doesn't have to show that same restraint. And if they fuck up, it's like, oh, well, you know what?
Exactly.
They get grace in being able to be like, wow, this is what it is to step boldly. But other people don't get that. And so you never have an opportunity to even tap into your full integrity because you're stripped from it at every turn.
Every turn. Every single turn. I was talking about how the ways that we operate as Black people, as we were speaking about earlier, and the things that we inherently do, naturally do, everyone does. And again, we're not essentializing Blackness, but there are certain markers, there are certain ideologies and philosophies, certain ancestral wisdoms that we adhere to. And I was talking to somebody about this, in that when you meet someone new, and they do this everywhere I go, but it's always funny in Cuba because y'all know my husband. He's a character, right? But every time when Black men meet, or Cubans in general, but specifically Black people and specifically Black men, you say where you grew up, what neighborhood you're from, who your people are, what religious house, who's your padrino, who's your madrina, if you're in Abacua, which juego, and it's literally within 20 seconds. And so I'm like, why wasn't that happening with these white cosplaying Black people? Because as Black people, we're always checking for that, right? You look familiar. Did you go to school with my tío? Oh no, that was my abuelo. Wait, hold on, but you grew up on which side of town? Okay, I used to see you at the dances they had every Friday. You know what I'm saying? We understand that. Why was that not happening? Because our values, what we do, our systems of acknowledgement, of vetting people, right? And whiteness will vet you from top to bottom, rooter to the tutor, fingerprints before you even start a job. And we not allowed to say what block you grew up on? Jessica, what block did you grow up on? What building were you in? What school did you go to? Who was your abuela? You know what I'm saying? And so I that whole tale, it's way too many of them happening. And from my part, I feel that it's not enough people who would do that checking in the academy.
The academy doesn't care about that kind of stuff, though. At the end of the day, the academy doesn't care, and the academy in all its branches, and that goes to like libraries, research centers, nonprofit, organizations as well. All those are also branches, right? Because they're all, at the end of the day, they're financed by the same institutions. At the end of the day. And at the end of the day, these institutions that finance them all come from who? Right? The sources are the same. They are ex-slave owners and private investors that play the stock market. And those are ex-slave owners. So they're all intertwined, and they don't really care. They don't really care about the justice that they say that they care about. And for me, it's a game that everybody is just playing.
What are y'all thinking?
So, no.
What do you? No, I'm saying I'm pushing it out to the people that are in the chat. Cindy Recio says the grace that privilege allows. Absolutely. Mariana shares
something about la raza.
Right? So
something about la raza. So.
Yeah, something about la raza. So thank you so much, Mariana, for that. But like, what are we committing to? Right? Let's reimagine. Right? Like, let's reimagine. So in this month, what are we committing to? What are we recommitting to? How are you going to use your acquired knowledge to be able to include people that have historically been excluded from spaces? And maybe motherfuckers don't want to be included either. That's just another reality. But if you could use whatever privilege you hold, what are you committed to doing? So share with us in the chat. Porfa.
As I'm reading the message.
I think it's like the forward, but then also the backwards. Because how do we repair a lot of the damage that Black women have been experiencing and Black people have been experiencing at the hands of these white women and the institutions that have opened the doors to these white women and closed the doors, blatantly closed. Every single person on this stream here have had doors closed on our faces. We have had it closed.
Correct.
And there's no repairing from that. There's no going backwards. And it has impacted our going forward.
Right.
People have profited from us not being at the table.
Yeah.
They have taken away seats that were meant for us at those tables. Which means that at times we have been on the table.
Yeah. And there's straight gaslighting that happens. There is also robbery of content, thoughts, ideas, experiences, right? Like, I mean, straight up, like, quotes that have been taken, utilized for other people's gains.
Names.
There are,
like,
straight up, like,
business models.
Right. Like,
this woman was taking money on behalf of Black women.
Listen.
Yeah.
Because Black women's labor is not free. And we said that women of color's labor is not free, and she was getting paid.
And treating Black women like shit. And asking people if they like forwarded stuff that they wrote, would send like a PayPal invoice on some like, oh, you should contribute because this labor is not free.
And the thing is, she knew good and well those nuances and didn't give a fuck and
right.
used it to her benefit. That's the part that I'm like, y'all are insidious and actually evil.
The levels.
As I'm over here deleting all these mestizo comments underneath our post.
Who?
Latinidad is so violent. That's what in this conversation of Latinidad, Latinidad is violence to me. It is ongoing violence on my personhood, assault on my humanity. And for what Genevieve had mentioned about the person making the icebreaker, how do you honor Latinidad? We don't, because it's never honored us. And that's us honoring our humanity and choosing not to honor things that denigrate us. And so, Lord, I ain't got nothing else to say about it.
Like, people always want to defend fuckery, man. Like, that's yeah, that is a very consistent message that, which again, even in their defense of their, like, I remember a while ago, Dash, you said, like, you have to choose what you want to be disloyal to. Right? That just because we learn something, y es la costumbre, like you say all the time, es la costumbre, no se enoje, así se dice, don't get mad, that's just how we do things, it's not offensive. But when I punch you in the jaw because you offended me, now I'm the bad one. Right? So how do you, like, people will come in the chat and be like, damn, that's really foul. But my uncle says that, and I know he don't mean nothing by it.
It's always that but. We said what we said. There's no but. Now you're choosing to be an anti-Black fuck on purpose. Because as we always say, we're conditioned in this.
Right.
We see it in our workshops. We understand that. We're also conditioned in anti-Blackness. But once you know, what are you going to do with this information?
Right. And that's where we can consistently be in choice, right? Because we can commit, and the shit ain't always easy, right? Because I'm conditioned the same way. Shit, I learned the same shit you learned, right? But that commitment means that sometimes when I'm being ain't shit, I have to be like, yo, am I being ain't shit right now?
Mm-hmm.
Where did this come from? Right? You have to commit to really being able to confront the worst of yourself every day, so that the best of you can shine through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the commitment that you're making?
And what do we want to bring into the future? You want to bring that into the future? Because we talk about restorative, transformative futures. I got that from M, restorative, transformative. I love it. What futures are we constructing?
Right.
Are we really going to bring in systems that oppress for this system to work? It relies on the dehumanization of everyone. This is what we want to construct in the future.
Right.
This is what we want to bring. This
including yours if you think that you're a winner, right? If you think that you're on top, you're still contributing to your own dehumanization by contributing to the dehumanization of others. And that's a really important and critical piece that you just mentioned there, Dash, because I think that people have a tendency of looking at things in this kind of like extreme, like I'm not with them niggas.
Yeah.
Right? But you ain't shit either if you're contributing to somebody's demise just by not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Like we had a few people that we come across within our workshops will say, well, I'm not actively, I'm not burning a cross. I'm not voting for Trump. So I'm not white like that. I'm like, but neither is my white Panamanian landlord. She didn't vote for Trump. She's not burning a cross.
Right.
There are various ways and expressions of being white. Own it. Sit with that. Because we've been having to sit with y'all's fuckery, white fuckery. Now it's your turn. And what does that mean? Like Evelyn said, you dehumanize yourself and you dehumanize others. We deserve more. All of us.
And you also win when we win. That's the other thing too, that you like. Black women do everything for everybody.
Too much.
Like I'm talking about, like it's like the world is right here, right on top of our hands. So if you like, listen, the shit just moves when we move.
You know that song, "When I Move, You Move," just like
that, right? I mean, Mariana here started and said, I have a commitment with continuing my personal deconstruction and unlearning of everything absorbed by living in a white supremacist system as a white woman. Listen, we all got to start somewhere, right?
And it's every day, yo. It's every day, B. It's not a one-stop shop. I love that the example you give, Ev, when you get a gym membership and then like you know
when you get a gym membership and you go to the gym one time, and as soon as you have like a half-ass workout and all you do is take all the pictures for Instagram and do like 2.3 on the treadmill, and then you like, bitch, I got abs.
And it's like, bitch, no, you don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Folks be wanting abs with half a workout, and then they want to be able to tell everybody, and then they don't want to do nothing to maintain those abs.
And then they call in the gym for a refund. And the gym is like, what?
Right. Like,
we don't know. We've never even seen you here. You have a membership with us.
Who are you? Do I
know sign in? You ain't signed in for the whole year. You had your membership.
Unfortunately, Genevieve had to put her babies to sleep because there is school tomorrow. Shout out to Genevieve and her amazing family. Gloria Santos says, I'm committed to destroying the Spaniard-centered sistema de castas. We cannot reclaim something that never named the children of Black and Indigenous people and classified people according to closeness to whiteness. Mm-hmm. Yep. You know the truth, Gloria. You know what it is.
Well, Gloria, La Santísima, made the name for our lives. Callense and listen to Black women.
So shout out to Gloria, right? Send us your email, Gloria. Put your email, like send us your email at radiocañanegra@gmail.com. Yes, sit. Mariela says, before I fall asleep, I will say I have learned to sit in my discomfort when it happens and understand why I'm feeling that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Locate that.
Weekend sit.
Weekend sit. Yo, but you know what, Ev? Like the your location or locate is so relevant for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like locate yourself within whiteness, even, right? Or your positionality. And maybe not even in whiteness, but your positionality in the world, your location in the world, in if we're talking about socially, economically, ... all the intersections.
Right.
But also, I had read I was looking at something on Instagram, and it said locate the source of your pain, and it said locate the source of your pain, and it's like locate it. Where is it in your body? Like literally locate where it is, and understand where that's coming from. Because in our workshops we say to sit with it,
right?
Also to locate that trauma. Is it coming from your heart? Is it coming from your back? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Literally locate where it is in your body.
Right.
And what Mariela said, and understand why you're feeling that way.
Right. And use that as a source of self-care too, right? To undo centuries and generations of harm. Right? People always want to do like, oh, let me go get my nails. But no, sit with that discomfort as a source of self-care. Right? Because when you move the next time, you'll be moving a little bit deeper into the kind of person that you really want to be. Right? Yeah. And so be okay with that. And then don't hide from it. Don't shy from it. So I think that there's another space where people are like, why the fuck would I want to be uncomfortable? And I'm like, you know what? I'm with your ass. Because why? Right? But the reality is that, like, what are you going to do with that discomfort? How are you going to take it to be able to move you in a way that really honors who you are? Are you being honored by being a racist dick? That's my question. Maybe you are, right? But if you know that you're not, then this is the work that we have to, then this is the work that you might have to be doing with yourself.
Like, I don't know your life. Maybe it is honoring you. Who knows?
No, because I mean, really, like, I have to believe that some people like that shit.
Right.
Right? Like, I have to fundamentally believe that some people really like that shit, that they are moved by it, that they have real. And so they're also in choice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if your actions don't align with your vision of yourself, then what moves do you have to make in order to be able to get closer to the vision of yourself that you think you want to experience? Because you can do that.
This reminds me of the quote. Wait, what did you say? I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, what was the last thing you said? I know it was hot fire.
No, I was like, because we can do that, and we don't have to wait 6 generations for people to be like, I knew, but I was afraid. Like, you know, like, tengo miedo. I can't. I don't. And it's like,
right.
What are you willing to undo and redo properly?
I'm reminded of the quote. Who are you without your trauma? And in unpacking that and coming back to yourself, and how oftentimes we're moving in as trauma responses. You know, as I saw this one meme that dragged me. It said being overly independent is a trauma response.
Yeah. And
I'm like, drag me to hell and back. Okay.
That would be me. And you know what? Because I've also been my experience is like a very, what people would think is like a Black experience, right? My mama, single mama, right? With 4 babies. I've been a single mama, right? I mean, I'm talking about I've been broke. Like, sometimes we sit around and we joke about all the things that we've done to make money, right? And that's going to be for another show. But let's just say that I done seen and did some things, right?
Well, we have a couple of it in our podcast. Y'all listen to our podcast now.
And I have no shame at the things that I've had to do to be able to keep my shoes on my baby's feet, and also keep him fed. But I also recognize that one of the things that has robbed me of is the opportunity to really feel comfortable asking questions, right? Because I've always been that person. Like I remember going to places, and when I started to like kind of shift a little bit in career, and I would go to these places that, you know, when you go to like that first dinner and you got like 15 forks and you have no fucking clue. And I remember one time I went to a dinner and I was like, oh my God, I'm so humiliated. Like I don't really know what fork to use. And I would leave. So like the first time they would put the first course down, and I would like leave and pretend I was going to the bathroom, and then I would come back where everybody else at the table was like using their right fork, and I would then deduce like, okay, which one is the fork that is missing? That's the one I need to use, right? And then every course I would go back, and I'm sure that by the third course they was like, something wrong with her, right?
Yeah.
I had no clue, and it was the only way that I could really conceptualize, right? To figure out how can I try to fit in these spaces. And so just really thinking about like holding space for people who I know don't have access to that, because what we do often also is that we conflate availability and accessibility. People always act like just because something is available that it is accessible. And so I invite people who have access to different things to also create avenues of accessibility for people who don't have it, because we're always like, just Google it.
Yeah.
Like motherfuckers don't even know how to use Google. Like, how do you even get the best results? Right? I could be Googling fucking Eggs Benedict and come up with a recipe for how to make bombs. Like, I don't even know how to, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just, that's not sufficient. And so really, like thinking about like what is our own privilege, right? Like I've missed meals, and I've known people who have missed meals, but people who have not missed meals, talking for people who've missed meals, like it's like, be clear. If you're in a space where you can invite people to be, you know what I mean? Like stop turning to the same two people. Like even for example, in Latinidad, like when we talk about Black people, I could count on one hand the people that are gonna speak. And if you are one of those 5 motherfuckers, because y'all know who y'all are at this point, step aside. Because then you're also perpetuating the very same idea that we are unicorns and that only the 5 of you get to have a voice. Right?
Right?
Black people matter, but we only seeing 5 Black people that matter. And those Black people are only vetted in white spaces. So in order for me to matter as a Black person, I got to have a PhD and 32 other letters behind my name. You're suggesting that everybody else that doesn't have that doesn't deserve access either. But then we're also going to turn around and say, oh, ancestral knowledge is so valuable. Nothing that we're doing is also suggesting that we're not centering or highlighting or positioning ancestral knowledge to be something that is legitimate and valuable. So it's like, what can we also do every day? So it's nice to sit in the discomfort, but when you have an opportunity to move this needle, fuck your discomfort, push your discomfort even more, and legitimately move the needle and be like, I'm gonna bring this to somebody else. I'm going to create more opportunities so that everybody else, so that other people can, or I'm going to sit the fuck down.
Right.
So somebody else can speak.
Right.
Chelsea Vasquez says, I'm continuously amazed by how much I don't know every single day. My desire to be uncomfortable is also driven by just being upset at the purposeful misinformation about colonialized educational systems. Yep, education systems. We've all been robbed of just understanding our reality and our world. I feel empowered when I learn the truth. I think that's essential for the college. Yep, I agree with you, Chelsea. And also just really being clear that we have all been colonized. Everybody.
Yes.
Everybody. In certain ways. Like I think sometimes about how there was a meme going around Instagram not too long ago. Did you see this one, Dash, about how all the girls who were told that they talk too much, right?
Our leaders.
And
I was one of those. Every report card talked too much.
But I was also thinking about how when you have a certain personality trait, right, that you are also learning that your personality trait is not valuable. So, for example, like if someone is inherently quiet, they're also learning that their personality trait is more valuable. Right? And thinking about the ways that this can really cause harm because we have such a narrow box of what success looks like. that also impacts us as we start to really think about it. So it's like the person who talks too much and had to like break out, you don't know the work that they had to do to get confident about talking too much, because it spent a lifetime being told that who they were was too much in all the wrong ways.
And like you said, we're all being socialized. So the person, the child who doesn't talk a lot is seeing that the child who talks too much is getting punished.
Right.
So it's those markers of value, and how we often talk about how when people identify someone as being strong or having tough skin, they lend less support to them versus someone that they deem as softer, right? Someone that they deem as not as sturdy, right? Or not as strong. They'll lend more support to those people. And I had this conversation with you and a couple other friends about how that is usually the idea of Black women in general, but specific Black women. Oh, well, you can handle it, Dash. You'll always find a way. And it's like, yeah, but I also need support, right. And the ways that we criminalize strength too.
Yeah.
We
to be strong
at the same time.
Who gets to be strong versus who has to be because they don't have, right? Like, it's like, oh, you're just strong, like, or you should do da 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 with no real support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? You should do.
That's what Feminista Jones tweeted the other day. She's like, before you give a suggestion, ask yourself these questions. And it was like a series of 6 questions.
Yes.
One of the biggest things that stood out to me was, do you, the person suggesting, have money and funds to help what you're suggesting come true? And I was just like, Holy Ghost stomp, because the amount of suggestions that I get, the amount of suggestions I know that you get, that Caña Negra gets, and I'm like, so who paying for this? Or you should come to my school and do a workshop. Did you advocate for us to come to your school and give a workshop?
And how much you gonna give us? Because really, like, you know what? Like, my kid don't eat air.
That's the other thing I was going on about with our workshops. People were like, oh, I would take the workshop, but if it's not for the 40, 60, 80, I have to pay my light and my rent. I'm like, so I guess I don't have light or rent. Just you. Because we offer things like this. This live stream is free. The billion threads I put on social media are free. My docuseries is free. The nanosecond that we dare to charge, 50 billion questions. Here y'all come. Here y'all come.
Listen, Black woman face and sound. Mm-hmm.
We supposed to pay our rent with thoughts and prayers? With private messages saying you changed my life? I'm supposed to type forward your private message of thanks to my landlord?
Right. Connet don't got a box for that yet.
I mean, come on. People still have an issue paying Black women for their labor, even though they're always calling on us at every turn. Black women will save the U.S. Black women. Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
Yep. And when things are working well, they give us their ass to kiss. That's the other side too. They'll be like, you want to throw work at me to fix shit, and when it's going well, you don't know my name. Shit. You know how them singers, and I'm not going to say no more, but you know how them singers, these like the faces and the sound that come out don't be matching. You know how singers be like that? How many of y'all know singers like that? Where they be like,
no, but like she always be having these concerts and her backup singers eat her alive. I'm like, why you ain't embarrassed? Because I'm trying to find out who I'm trying to find out who Reynaldo is, because I be giving the backup singers names. Who's Reynaldo? And it'd be the same Reynaldo. I'm like, so you know he's good, and you know he's shitting on you. You don't care.
Let me tell you something. Shout out to backup singers because they feel like they're amazing.
No, for real.
They're amazing. Real. Wait, have you seen that documentary 20 Feet from Stardom?
You told me about it. No, I haven't seen it.
If y'all seen it, throw it up in the chat. Throw like a yes, girl.
Where it's on Netflix?
I think it's on Netflix. It's so good.
From Stardom. 20
feet from Stardom. Yeah, it's 20 Feet from Stardom, and it's really about like different people that sing backup. But it's been, but you know what? Like, what do we want to recall this month? Because people are like, oh, Feliz Dia. Like, what do we want to? What do we want this month to be? 30 days of solidarity. Like, what do we want to do? And anybody in the chat that is listening, help us out, right? We are going to redefine, right? El mes de la Hispanidad, and we are going to like reclaim it. We out here reclaiming shit. Motherfuckers be reclaiming shit all the time.
Yeah.
We reclaim them, and we need
to named on our Instagram Black, what did I put? Black Latin American Month.
Right. Black Latin American Futures Month, 30 days of Black rest. However we want to say, we certainly can. I also wanted to add that we have a lot of stuff coming up this month. Because we do acknowledge that people are wanting to do things, and so we got things that y'all might want to do. Starting with Genevieve and the amazing team at Afro Resistance is doing a dominant culture workshop tomorrow, September 16th and September 30th. Definitely, if you are interested, check out the Radio Caña Negra Facebook and Instagram, and we'll be able to have more information. We're also going to have our part 1 anti-Blackness series for Radio Caña Negra this Saturday. I think there's still a few tickets that are left. So if you want to go, tell a friend to tell a friend. And we're going to be talking just like this, having small group conversation, listening, doing some deep listening just for a little bit more feedback. Like, I don't feel like I talk about myself that much, but I do a lot of work in restorative justice spaces. And so like listening, hearing stories is how we tend to humanize each other, right? And like, that's one of the ways. So being able to listen and sit to other people and also get some real talk and some real critical information for those of you that are particularly starting your journey. What else do we have? I know that Afro Latino Travel has El Otoño Negro, training and workshop series about Black Latin American life globally. And so I definitely encourage you to take all of that, and get your tickets fast. Because the early bird gets the worm, because we have different pricing structures. So the sooner you get your ticket, the better. And
gift it to your people. Spread it, share it. I don't want to see no more posts with 2 shares and 30 people liking it. It should have 30 shares.
Listen, who do I need
30 shares, my guy?
Ask, who do I need to betray from my alliance to my people to be real? Child, I don't know. I don't know.
Really, what you're betraying is white pathology, because in the moment that you're betraying white pathology, you're restoring your humanity.
Right.
That's how I be feeling. Like, we have these discussions about white institutions, the white gaze, right? It hits different getting approval from my people, getting approval from my mom, my cousin, my husband, the madrina that sells, empanadas in the street. When she tells me I did good, I feel that. That's where it lies. And the thing is, though, is I had to get to that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, and we're talking about trauma response and who you really are when you take off your oppression, right? And which a lot of people, we can't, right? We can't take off our oppression, but if we're committed and we're making that decision to heal, we're getting closer to ourselves. We're getting closer to who we are, our essence. And so it allows for our personhood to flourish. And in really identifying what we deem as important versus what society is telling us to deem as important. Because there are certain things that I'm like, I don't care about this. And society's like, you should care about this. And I'm like, I actually don't care about this. But it does take a level of strength, and I've acknowledged, people have told me that. They're like, oh, you're not afraid of anything. I'm like, yes, I am. But the thing is that my humanity can't wait.
Right.
I have to be committed to that, or else I would die. And we talk about life expectancy, specifically of Black Latin American women. Our life expectancy is 7 years less than our white counterparts. My humanity can't wait. So no, if that thing that you're telling me that's important, that is not important to me. And I'm going to tell you it's not important to me, and I'm not going.
And it's so funny that you say that, Dash, because I was thinking about a conversation I had at work not too long ago where I was having an ideological difference with a colleague who I was mentioning that, like, there's no way that we can talk about education and not talk about race, right? And they were saying basically like, oh, we need to be safe, right? In the way that we come across to like potential partners, and I was like, we're saying the same thing. You and I are defining safety differently. Right? By me not saying anything, I don't think that I'm creating a safe space, but you are saying that this is the way that your safe space is created. And so I think that everybody needs to really, when you're talking about like, we're talking about location, but we're also talking about where am I sitting? What am I willing to risk? What am I willing to do? Right? And that's some deep shit. You don't even have to feel bad about it. Next time you on a toilet, washing dishes, whatever, on a train, in your car, right? Just sit in that silence and realize, like, how am I defining safety? How am I defining these words that we keep throwing around all the time? And how am I contributing to that? Because I think that that's a really important thing, that it's like, beyond the performance, what am I doing? Right?
What am I actually doing?
What am I actually doing? What am I actually believing?
Yep.
Right? Because what do I value? Those are the types of things, they're going to come out in the way that you show up regardless, right? If things are not aligned, what do you need to do to be able to align them, right? Like I joke all the time that like, I've been trying to lose weight since about 1987, right? And I can talk about the fact that I've been trying to lose weight, but this pint of ice cream that's waiting for me, like shit ain't rocking, right? And so at a certain point, I could be saying on the one side of my face, like, oh, this is the things that I want to do, but my actions are not in line with the outcome that I want.
Yeah.
And so as much as I love, shout out to Haagen-Dazs, as much as I love ice cream and the feelings that it gives me of like just satisfaction, if I know that I want to move to another space, right? Because knee pain is not the move for me. Right? Then there's certain things that I may have to do. And in the process, I'm going to be uncomfortable. Right? I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be angry. I'm unhappily munching on a damn rice cake. Right? But that's just what it is. Like, those are the choices. And so like in your life, what are the choices that you have to make in order to greet your best self?
But then when you get on the other side, because I want to complete that, when you get to the other side, you feel so much more in control of yourself, of your personhood, of your life, right? Yeah. Because I was doing keto. I was doing keto for a few weeks. I took a little break because my birthday and cake, but I made that decision. Okay. But
choice.
But yesterday I was like, okay, today I took a break, right? So that day I was not on keto, right? And I was like, damn, I should go to the grocery store, get mad Cheetos, get mad chocolate. And I did none of that. I did none of it. And it wasn't even a struggle. I was like, I don't need that. I don't want it. And I didn't get it. I had my little chicken. It was still like halfway keto.
Yeah. Because it's also satisfying.
Yeah, because I like how I feel.
Like, oh wow, like I can rock with this. Like I'm always like, the best part of self-care for me as a Black woman came when I stopped trying to be the ultimate Black person for white people and became the ultimate Black person for me. For me. I'm old enough to remember when I had job interviews And if I had braids in my hair, people would be like, you need to unbraid your hair, girl. You need to straighten your hair. Like that was a thing. And so really thinking about the infinite amount of ways that I learned that Blackness was not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And because I learned it in such a critical part of my personhood, there are certain lessons that when you learn them by the time you hit 10, they're hard to undo.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They are very hard to undo. And so really processing what that looks like all the time, right? Many of us were raised where we were like, oh, damn, they wildin'. You know, sit straight, don't turn around, right? Because we don't want to be associated with those niggas over there, right? And so just really thinking about the fact that that's decolonization, right? That's learning that has to happen all the time and in different spaces. And when you're committed to it, you got to confront that shit and be like,
yeah,
because it's going to come up at the most random time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. It comes up. I was in 125th Street at Whole Foods the other day and I was like, and I had a moment where I heard something and I was just like, and I had to like bring it back together. Like I had to give myself a talking to and be like,
yeah, you have to confront the conditioning, and in that you're confronting yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one time a family member made a comment. They said, don't do that. That's what poor people do. Right. And I paused and I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? You know, and we had a conversation. But had I been the obedient, you know what I'm saying? The don't talk back, don't question elders, you know. But again, I said it respectfully. It wasn't like, bitch, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, what do you, what do you mean by that? Because I'm still adhering, because I do believe in respecting your elders. To me, that's not, in some ways, it can be a colonized state in different ways that it manifests. It absolutely can. But I do believe in honoring your elders and your ancestors, but in honoring your elders, you know. And so I said, well, what do you mean by that? What does that mean to you? Whereas maybe a few years ago, it would be something that bothered me and lingered, but I never got to the root of that problem. And so if we're gonna say that we love Blackness and we love Black people, it's in taking ourselves and our loved ones to task. You know, because we understand that it's for the betterment of all of us. It's for the freeing and the liberation of all of us. And so, it ended up being a 5-minute conversation, but I know that family member, that conversation stayed with them. Yeah. Maybe they'll think maybe they'll think twice next time. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe they forgot about the conversation. But at least I'm doing what I say I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
It's in making that decision and making that commitment. And so it's extremely important.
Yeah. And it's not easy. I would definitely say that I think one of the things that makes it easier for me is to be able to have friends, right, that also are in that same space. Because I recognize that community, right? Like that's a beautiful thing, or it can be a beautiful thing, right? It can also make us worse. But really having a community that is by choice, that is really helping you to also stay aligned with the person that you say you want to become, that, right? Like that's really, really important. But it is now 11:13. Like we've been out here. We out here.
We always be out here in these streets.
And you know what? We got to go. I got to go jump on this bike though.
Yeah, I think I'm doing Taibo.
Wait, where you do Taibo at?
YouTube. They got all the Taibos, the classic and all that. I'm saying.
When my sister took me to Taibo class and I threw up, child, that shit is intense. Embarrassing. Nobody told me.
Speaking of Nam Shane, Cardi's gotten a divorce. I couldn't be happier.
I know. Shout out to Cardi. Shout out to Cardi. Listen, I'll be like, you know what? If you happy, I'm happy, sis. Take the WAP where it's wanted, okay, and valued. So that's all.
He took that song to heart. He was like, oh, let me sample the WAPs.
Multiple.
Wops. Wapatry. Really?
He's a wop connoisseur.
Wapasaur. Not Wapasaurus.
We ain't shit.
Wappadactyl.
Oh my God. And sometimes that's just
right.
But shout out to you all. Thank you so much for being a part. Stay tuned. Follow us on here on Facebook. Thank you so much. And also on Instagram so that you can see there are lots of events happening. There's like 10 things on our calendar this month, right?
Yes, please. I'm gonna put up a calendar tomorrow. But
calendar.
Nadia has her workshops. Our workshops this Saturday, next Saturday. My Black Latin American course, October 6th, 8th, and 10th. October 10th is Afro-Cuban Independence Day. Look, we plugging you into the best. You have with the best.
And if you have any ideas about how we can rename this month, holla.
The C, the A, the N, the A, the N, the E, the GRA, Caña Negra. La 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 la.
Oh, that's what we need. We need like a theme song, right? So we need somebody like get your musician homies to roll up and give us a theme song for our podcast. And if you're not listening, we are on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, you name it. We are on all those platforms. So definitely take a listen and write us at radiocañanegra@gmail.com and let us know what you want us to talk about.
Yeah.
And on that note, out.
So we out then, right? We just leave the studio. We have
yeah.
Sam, I think.
And thank you, Celie, for the assist on.
Yeah, Celie got her chat series too. Check out Celie.
Yeah, so Celie, where's Celie chat? What we want to give? What's the information about Celie's chat series?
I believe it's every Thursday. Also, she has a book out entitled "The Dominican Was a Color."
So then we need to have Celie, so that you can.
Right? My fellow sister in Oya, Yansa. Check Celie out. Just click on her profile. She got all the stuff.
Celie.
Everyone here. But anyway, we out. We getting our fitness on.
Yes.
We walking the walk. We doing what we say we gonna do.
Listen, all right?
I gotta get ready to see my husband.
You better work. Come on, working girl. All right.
Bye, y'all.